It's time to sort out Arsenal Football Club. Bring in Thogdad as interim manager. What do you reckon?
That is a very big shout. Now, I tell you what, Arsenal bottom of the table, Tottenham Hotspur at the top. If you live in North London, you're either laughing or crying, aren't you, Theo?
Absolutely. I mean, who'd have thought Spurs would be top, Kane would be staying, and Arsenal look like they're actually getting relegated from the Premier League as things stand. Unbelievable scenes. That's our job today. Sit down with Thogdad and go through every problem at Arsenal and talk about how we're going to sort it out. Right, how many likes are we going for today, Thogdad?
Oh, it's Arsenal, it's Premier League, 18,000.
If we get 18,000 likes, Arteta will be sacked. So there you go, Arsenal fans.
They've lost the first 3 games of the season for the first time since 1954. Grandad Barry was a kid then, Theo.
Unbelievable. And we've seen lineups with Kolasinac coming back from, didn't even know he was an Arsenal player. And they're playing him out of position in centre-back when players like Saliba are out on loan. Whose decision's that? Cedric playing at right back when Maitland-Niles is available. This guy isn't even allowed to leave. Arteta's stopping him leaving, but he's not even starting him.
Well, I tell you what, Theo, I look at the 11 who started against Manchester City, and all I think of is mediocrity.
They conceded 5 goals to City, 19% ball possession. How do you even get there? I mean, I'm sorry, you can field 11 players, and I've seen EFL Cup matches where they've given more of a shout against City, because that was embarrassing.
It was, Theo. Now, I expected Arsenal to lose to both Chelsea and to Man City, but what I didn't expect was 0 fight and 0 passion.
Yep.
Now, that game against Man City, a couple of the goals were inexcusable.
Yep.
I'm thinking of that Gundogan header at the back post. That shouldn't be possible even at Sunday League. I'm thinking of that goal that went through the defence and was tapped in by Ferran Torres.
Dad,
absolutely embarrassing.
It was terrible. And I'm thinking about how Gabriel Jesus can pick the ball up in the box like he's having a cup of tea.
Yeah.
Nobody around him, and he still gets a shot off target. They're not a championship side. They've got a good football club with very good footballers, and I know they're missing a lot through injuries and different problems with Rona, but that's not good enough for Arsenal Football Club. They got smashed by City, and you do have to start looking upstairs because there are some decent players in there who are performing to a level that's nowhere near their usual standard.
Well, I totally agree about the right side. I think Cedric Suarez was totally outclassed by anyone on the right side, and I think Norwich will watch that and think, we fancy some of this. I've got to ask you, Theo, I look at the Arsenal squad, I want to know who would be wanted by other teams? Who would actually get into a Chelsea or a City or a United team?
Chelsea and City, 2 teams they've played already, probably the 2 teams best in the world currently.
Yeah.
I understand that they've lost to both of them, but that's no excuse. But look how many times Arsenal have beaten Chelsea, where Chelsea have clearly had the better team, but Arsenal had the fight and the heart, and maybe that came from early stage Arteta or late stage Unai Emery or managers before. Arsenal had heart more than Chelsea in that match. And at the moment, it's simply not like that. And that is why there's a problem, which is outside of the players. Personally, it's Arteta. Some people argue it's the board and upstairs, but I don't think their transfer window's been that bad. They've signed 6 players, spent over £140 million, which is more than any other Premier League club. It's more than Manchester United, who have signed Ronaldo, Varane, and Sancho. Arsenal have spent more money. The players they're signing is like Lokonga, Ben White, and Nuno Tavares. It's not good enough.
Yeah, well, let's analyse who they've bought, because I actually get what they're trying to do, Theo. They're trying to buy good young players, and I respect that. They do have a long-term plan. Ben White, Odegaard, Ramsdale, Lokonga. Are they not just buying mediocrity there, Theo?
They're young. There's definitely something they can build on. It's clearly a process with Arteta.
Yes.
But they need experienced players in now. Why did they get rid of Saliba on loan? David Luiz, he's a free agent. They need that experience.
Yes.
They could seriously do with a centre-back right now. They got rid of David Luiz. I know he's not the best player, but at least he'd be able to teach the lads something because he's older. It's not good enough for Arsenal, and it starts with upstairs. What do you reckon about the board of Arsenal, Dad?
Well, I'll tell you what, let's start with Stan Kroenke. He's on the board and he is the owner. He's put £505 million into that squad, which makes it the number 6 squad in the league. It's half the value of the City squad. Now, should you throw money at this? Because Man City, every player either cost or probably worth about 50 million.
That's quite a lot of money.
But it's not, Theo, because they are 300 million quid away from being top 4. They're 400 million quid from being a City or a Chelsea. Interestingly, Theo, on a Twitter poll, most people don't blame Kroenke.
I don't blame Kroenke. I blame the manager. He's got to be doing better with the players. I know things haven't really fallen into place with him with all the injuries and, Rona problems. People catching it and meaning that he has to basically field an 11 that's nowhere near the quality of what Arsenal usually should be producing. It was their fault for not letting Maitland-Niles go. Why isn't he in the team? It was their fault for letting Saliba go out on loan. They now need centre-backs. They're playing Kolasinac out position. It's not good enough from Arsenal. They got their decisions wrong, and you have to look at Arteta.
I disagree. I think it starts with Stan Kroenke. He's the boss. He's in charge of a business that's worth about $3 billion, according to Forbes, yeah? It's one of the most expensive football clubs in the world in terms of value. So I reckon a team like Arsenal, they shouldn't be looking at top 6 or top 8. They should be looking at Champions League every single year.
Yeah.
Kroenke has to spend another 300 or 400 million pounds. Now, it's not as simple as that. He's got to have the right structure, the right CEO, the right head of recruitment, the right manager. It's all wrong at Arsenal for me.
But
starting with the top, spend more money.
Hold on, Dad. They've just spent the most in the league, and they look even more mediocre. They've spent more than Manchester United, more than anybody.
Yes.
And they look worse.
Because they've got the structure all wrong. They don't know how to spend money properly.
Okay, so it's the structure that's the problem.
Correct. Now, back in the day, they had a guy called Arsene Wenger, who I think was a footballing genius. He was not just the coach. He was the head of recruitment. He was the CEO.
Yeah.
He'd be the finance director if he could.
Yeah.
He was an absolute legend, and without him, there was an absolute vacuum. Mikel Arteta, for me, Theo, a legend of a player, but he's not a big enough name to manage this football club.
Well, I agree, and I think that's where the problem stands. If you bring in Gattuso or Conte and give them a hairdryer treatment and really get these players fired up, because that's exactly what they need. They need someone who's got experience, because Arteta, before Arsenal, was just an assistant manager. He never had a top managerial position at a football club.
Yeah.
And you're giving him the Arsenal job like that. I mean, for me, even at the beginning, that's question marks raising. Bringing a manager that's done it before, experienced, can win short-term trophies. That is Antonio Conte. He would get those players fired up. He would bring the best out of them in the short term. Now, I don't know if this guy would be a long-term manager, but he could definitely turn it round. Would you agree?
I think the problem is much deeper than that. I asked the question, which good players have Arsenal got? I would say Kieran Tierney. I think he's a class act. Obviously, Saka, Martinelli, Smith Rowe.
Martinelli's
But beyond that, I
average.
struggle. I struggle to think of a fifth player who's a really great player at Arsenal.
Okay, maybe a few of their signings like Ben White and Lokonga can turn into good players, but right now, more than anything, they need experience. They need players that can dig deep and get the players fired up, and they do not have that.
Theo, it is wrong from top to bottom. Not enough investment, not the right structure in place, a very poor crop of players at the moment. What can Arteta do? And you mentioned Conte, Theo. Why would he come to the mess that is Arsenal? Which serious manager would touch this with a barge pole?
My message for Arsenal Football Club is sack Arteta and bring in Conte personally. You know, I think Arteta's time is up. If this was in 5 years' time, it would make sense.
Yeah.
Where he's been to a few of the lower clubs, he's worked up his experience, he's learned a lot about being a top manager. But it's not like that. He's jumped straight to the Arsenal job and it hasn't worked. So Arsenal board need to throw in the towel. Look at Chelsea. They would have sacked Arteta by now. And look how successful they are as a football club. I know some Arsenal fans would think we don't want to turn into a Chelsea, but you've got to give them some respect for making the right decisions at the right time. And right now, Arsenal are making the wrong one.
I tell you who to bring in, new owners. Now, there's rumours going around on Twitter about the Qataris launching a bid. It will cost a lot of money. That's what Arsenal need. A new board, a new structure all the way through. Bring in a new manager and invest £400 million. That's probably the number. And I know that sounds very statistical and mathematical, but if you want to challenge for Champions League and the title, you've got to invest the money.
I've got to give some respect to Arteta. I think when the players are fit again and he's got his availability of the likes of Aubameyang, Lacazette, Odegaard's playing with full fitness all together, I think they've got a squad that could actually be, you know, top 8, top 9. But right now, it's a serious state.
Well, I'll tell you what, Arsenal against Norwich is next on September the 11th. If you don't win that comfortably, you're gone.
Absolutely. He's out the door. No questions asked. He's got an international break to get the boys training and actually try and get everyone together.
Yeah.
Because it's his one last opportunity to do so. It probably is very negative in the Arsenal training ground right now. And it's no surprises because they've conceded 9 goals, scored 0, and over 270 minutes of football, they've only had 10 shots on target. That is nothing to do with the players listed. Okay, they've not been great, but they've still got to do a better job than that. 19% ball possession against Man City. Embarrassing. It needs to change, and it has to change now.
I agree, Theo, but what I don't see from the players is any sort of passion. Now, Manchester City are a brilliant club. They're worth about £1 billion, and I expected them to beat Arsenal. But 5-0, and the way they won that, no way. And the last 9 games between those clubs, Arsenal and Man City have won them. That's not acceptable.
How can they go from beating West Brom 6-0 to then getting absolutely hammered by everybody they've faced in the Premier League so far? Where's the logic? Seriously.
Theo, where is the passion? Where is fighting for the badge? Arsenal is one of the biggest clubs in world football. And if you put on that shirt and go onto that pitch, you've got to sweat blood and tears.
Can Arsenal get relegated this season if they hold on to Arteta?
No, there's no chance of that. 2 of them are against Chelsea and Arsenal. I would expect maybe none or 1 points from that. The Brentford defeat was disappointing, but no, they will beat Norwich. They'll beat Watford, and then it's the North London derby.
Oh my goodness, that would be crazy. 1st versus 20th, that game as things stand. That's our message. Thogdad reckons it's the board. I reckon it's the manager. Comment down below what problem you reckon it is at Arsenal Football Club and what they need to do to change it round. We're just 2 random geezers. We're not actually going to go into interim manager. I mean, Thogdad, do you want to manage Arsenal?
I think I'll pass on that one.
Why not? You'd be a good manager. You definitely give the players a hairdryer treatment.
Theo, I'm sticking to the Navy team at Clash of the Creators.
Oh, Thogdad's made a statement. He's not making a move.
Theo, I remember the time when Arsenal were the Invincibles. 2004, it's only 17 years ago. They went through a season, won 26, drew 12. That's never been done before. Patrick Vieira, Thierry Henry, Bergkamp, Van Persie. These are some of the names from 20 years ago. I want Arsenal to go back to those days.
Yeah.
Football needs a strong Arsenal Football Club.
The Premier League needs that. You've grown up in those days, and to see the decline, especially for your, generation, is just ridiculous. Guys, thank you so much for watching this video. We'll continue this discussion in the comment section down below. Let us know what is the problem at Arsenal. We'll see you all in a bit. Bye, guys.